Hi everyone, it's Tracy from Becoming Temperance, and I am here to do a October, November sort of what have I been up to, what decks have I been using video. And I know it's been a little while since I made a video. I did take a bit of a break from social media. I didn't come off of it entirely, but I haven't been posting videos, if you haven't noticed, and I took the month of November off from Instagram altogether. Other than checking my feed to see what other people were doing, I haven't been posting to Instagram in November. And I do plan to start back up on Instagram in December with a December challenge, but we will see. So there are not going to be very many decks in this month's video, and I will do them first. And then I'll tell you a little bit about the other creative sort of things I've been working on that are sort of tarot, spiritual related, that I kind of was doing instead of pulling cards for the last month and a half. So we'll start with the Tarot of the Unknown. I used this deck a lot in October, and I have a full walkthrough review of this deck on my channel already, so I'm not going to spend, any significant amount of time on it. Suffice it to say, I still absolutely love this deck, and unfortunately it has now gone out of print. So unless the creator gets a whole lot of interest, he is probably not going to print it again. And then I used two other decks that I'm going to go into a little bit more detail this month. Forest of the Enchantment Tarot. This is a recent release from Llewellyn. It's kind of been all over the place. And I just want to talk about why this deck is not a deck that I'm actually going to keep in my collection. I like the artwork. The artwork is very pretty. The artwork is much easier to see in the actual book than it is on the cards. It's, it's quite detailed. It's not shadowscapes detailed, but it's quite detailed. So you can see here's the card and here's the picture in the book, which is much bigger and easier to see. This deck sort of is Rider-Waite and sort of is not. And I'm discovering that I prefer my decks to be either one or the other. I want them to either, they're all the cards pretty much have the Rider-Waite meaning, or all the cards are completely their own thing. And this one was hit and miss. There were a lot of changes to the names of the suits, the names of the major arcana cards. I like what it says in the introduction about this being a journey through the forest, and that makes a lot of sense to me. However, it says here that it draws inspiration from many forest tales without direct reference to particular stories. And that is not true, because many of the cards do in fact reference a specific fairy tale. And it really helps if you understand the context of the fairy tale. And let me see if I can find a card to demonstrate that. Here we have the Five of Visions, and Visions is cups, which the names of the suits are not readily apparent to me to what their equivalent is in a standard tarot deck, which is a problem for me. But this Five of Visions, this is clearly taken from the story of the Frog Prince. And it is an actual scene from the Frog Prince. In the book, it actually even describes it as the princess chasing her golden ball down the forest path, watching helplessly as it splashes into a deep pool. Nearby, a smiling frog also watches. He knows the story is about to change, for he is the Frog Prince. But they don't actually say that this is from the fairy tale called The Frog Prince. So I do have a little bit of a problem with some of the cards referring to actual written fairy tales and some of them just alluding to a fairy tale-like scenario or a trip through the forest. One of the things I really did love was the Fool card is the heart, the white heart going into the forest, and the World card is the white heart coming out of the forest. this White Heart, which makes perfect sense for the major arcana. The White Heart goes into the forest. You go through all of the major arcana things, and then you come out of the forest on the other side. And they do talk about in the introduction very briefly about when you go into the forest, how little you can actually see that's ahead of you. But when you come out of the forest, you have a whole field of vision, because the world card, let's see, the wide world, you can see, you come out of the forest and there's this lovely pastoral land and you can see for miles. So I really liked that. I didn't like that some of the cards referred to specific fairy tales and some of the cards were just generic. I had a hard time reading with this deck in a just straight out of the box sort of way. And I was a bit disappointed in the book, actually. I thought it could have been so much more. They spent so much time and money on making it pretty without, I would prefer better content than having it be all pretty. It does, you know, it's a good book. It's a good book. It's just not a great book. I think it could have been so much more. I think that's my problem with the book, is I could see the potential for so much more content about the cards and about how they work together. But there is a spread in the back that I'm going to be doing pretty regularly, because I thought it was a great spread, just a simple 2-card spread where you go into the day. Who am I as I enter the forest today, and who will I be when I emerge? I really love that. So I need to write that spread down, because I would like to pass this one on to someone who might like it better than I do. I also there was a deal breaker card for me in this particular deck. There was just one card that I came across. You know, when you're doing readings, you don't come across every card. So I didn't read every single entry in the book for every single card. But when I came across the meaning for the 8 of Visions, the 8 of Cups, I just couldn't get on with it. It's absolutely not the way I see the 8 of Cups, and I will tell you why. Okay, the 8 of Visions, and I'm just going to give you the meaning at a glance, because you can see there is nothing here that even vaguely resembles the 8 of Cups from a Rider-Waite-Smith standpoint. And the meaning at a glance is withdrawing from life, extended solitude, the dangers of depression, and being swamped by grief. And I see the 8 of Cups as a much more empowering card about making the decision to move on and leave behind maybe something you've worked on, particularly a relationship that you may have invested a lot in, but that just isn't working. And so you've made a really empowering move to make a change in your life. And I can't see the 8 of Cups this way, and there are probably other cards that I would have a similar problem with if I took the time. Let's face it, I'm being a bit lazy, but I'm not reading every single entry in the deck. And it's a lovely deck. It's not a deck for me. So there you go. I know this is nitpicky, but I hate to say this out loud, it's too green. Everything is the same shade of green. Yes, there are other colors, you know, there's some oranges and some reds, and there's a teeny bit of blue, but it's just too green for me. It's too much of the same color. Oh, look, there's some blue. Isn't that nice? A little more blue. And now we're back to green. And green, and look at all the green. So it's my personal opinion. I know there are lots of people who love this deck, but I'm going to pass mine on. The other tarot deck that I have been working with this month is the Wild Messengers Alchemical Tarot. And I like this deck. I really love the book, but I can't use this as a tarot deck. The court card names have been changed, and I have to look everything up in the book for this deck. And that's not a deal breaker for a tarot deck. But in general, when I have a tarot deck, I want to be able to read it as a tarot deck from the images on the cards. And I can't do that with this deck. Beautiful as it is, the only thing I can use to read it as a tarot deck is the card name, basically. So initiation, 16, that's actually the Tower. And this is the Teacher of Water. And I'm pretty sure that's the Queen of Cups. Shift, that's a major card. That'd be 12. That'd be the Hanged Man. We've got the Three of Earth. I know that. The Three of Earth, so that's the Three of Pentacles. Ants working together, that sort of works for me. We have a few extra cards too. I put them in. I don't usually put the extra cards in the deck, but I'm not using this as a tarot deck. I'm using it as an oracle deck because it works really, really well for me as an oracle as opposed to a tarot deck. And I don't feel the need to make any changes to it either. And I'm gonna, let me find a card to, here we go. The Nine of Water is a salmon. Now, I know what the Nine of Cups means, and I could read it as the Nine of Cups, but that salmon doesn't add to the Nine of Cups conversation for me. So let me pull out the book and read a little bit about what it says in the book about the Nine of Water. One great thing about the book, it has these little color coding that you can see on the side, so it makes it easier to find stuff because it's a big old book. So here we have Salmon, which is the Nine of Water. There's an invocation. Salmon, I invoke your determination to proceed and your gratitude upon arrival. I celebrate how far I've come. May the granting of my wishes nourish me and my entire community. The end of your journey is already written, just as it is for the salmon who return to their spawning grounds, release their descendants, and offer their lives to replenish the stream. We are all equally drawn toward a destiny of disappearance, though you might not know it from the way we fear the inevitable end. Sorry, I'm wearing different glasses today. I'm having a hard time seeing. If we open to learning from the salmon, we'll swim towards our story's end with gusto and delight. The time has come to seize life and sing sacred songs while there's air in your lungs. So you see, it goes on like that. I don't get the Nine of Cups from that description at all, although I think it's a fabulous message. So yes, I intend to keep this one, but I am not going to use it as a tarot deck. I'm going to use it as an oracle deck. And the majors there are pages of stuff about the majors. And it is teaching me a little bit about, I learn every time I get an animal deck, which I keep saying I'm not that fond of animal decks. I get a little bit closer to the energy of all the animals that I study when I do that. So it's a good thing. The praying mantis, the teacher of fire. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful deck. And I do love reading it as an oracle. And then the last deck that I've been working with to some extent over October and November are the story cards by Kathy Nichols. This is a lovely little oracle deck. It doesn't give me huge spiritual hits. It gives me little gentle nudges to help me along the way. And generally, I love the artwork on 99% of the cards. There are a couple of cards that really don't resonate with me. I think I've got them stuck here in the back. Yeah, this one, this Dreamer, I'm just not a fan of smoking in any way, shape, or form, and so I've taken that one out. And this Surfer, he's a bit too much like another card in the deck, and I'm not going to spend the time to go find that card. And so I'm not using that card either. But all the rest of them are just lovely. I love that image. I think the images are just beautiful and they speak to me. And yes, I've enjoyed using this one. I've enjoyed it a lot. I have spent a lot of time over the last 6 weeks working on this. Dawn Michelle at Boho Tarot was selling some of her junk journals, and I bought this one. This is the first one that I bought. And I have turned this particular junk journal into my personal little white book. And what I did was I actually what I did was I bought an extra copy of Stephen Bright's Tarot, Your Personal Guide, because in this book you have pictures of really nice size, sort of medium-sized pictures of the universal weight. I think that's what it's called, the one that was colored by the Hanson Roberts. I can't remember her first name. And I was able to, it cost about $10. The book costs about $10. The card pictures don't back up to each other, so I was actually able to cut out the card images from this book to use in this journal. And that's a whole lot cheaper than printing out your own card images and a whole lot less time consuming. And I really, really loved doing that. So that's where these images came from. And then I had a little version of the Terra Nova that I stuck those images in there as well. And I went through all the cards, and I went to a couple of my favorite tarot books that just give keywords, and found keywords for the cards that are not the keywords that immediately come to mind for me when I see those cards. I left those keywords out. I don't need those keywords. Those are the ones that come first. So if I ever get stuck, I'm in the middle of something and I can't quite put my finger on what that card means in the context of my reading, I can pull out my personal little white book and find some jumping off keywords that will help get my intuition flowing. And I did a page for each. There's still some room to write in here, not a whole lot, but I can always get creative with my writing in here. And I stuck some of the pages that she put in that were like pages from books, I overlaid with other stuff so that I could write on them, because this was a fairly small junk journal. And stuck some stickers in there, and then got to the world, and then I started doing 3 cards for 2 pages on when I got to the minors. And you can see, like, for the 4 of Wands, I didn't have a whole lot. I can always add stuff later. And then when I got to the court cards, that's when I just ran out of space, because I was like, oh, the court cards are so hard, and this was such a good exercise for me. And you'll see that some of my court cards, yeah, like with this one, that's all Knight of Cups. Here's my Queen of Cups. There's my King of Cups. So, yeah, and then I love that I made a mistake. I really do. Because when I came to the Pentacles, I put them in the wrong order. So I've got the Ace of Pentacles. Then we go to the 4, the 3, and the 2. But then I wrote them in the right order. It's not that big a deal. But I kind of like that little mistake in there. So yeah, that took the better part of 6 weeks to do the cutting and pasting and the finding the keywords that I wanted to use to put in here. And it's pretty much complete, but you never know. As I run across a new really good keyword from a guidebook or something like that, I'll probably add it in here as well. But yeah, so I spent a good 6 weeks working on that. And then finally, I have got a second junk journal from Dawn Michelle that I am going to use as an affirmation journal. I really find affirmations very helpful, and I think it would be a lovely creative thing for me to take this affirmation journal and work on it over the course of several years, putting things in there. I told her kind of what my theme was that I wanted, and she created the book for me, and all the signatures and little pockets and things. I had sent her some scrapbook papers that I particularly wanted to use. I wanted to have this celestial theme, and this thing on the front. I'm going to take a few minutes and show y'all what I'm going to use for this particular junk journal, because this journal I don't intend to write in. I intend for it to be primarily collage work. So I added this card with this quote to the front and some of these stickers. But beyond that, I have not really started on this one. It's a beautiful book, and I love these pages. Oh, she's added some pages that are absolutely gorgeous. This is the first quote that I'm actually going to put in there. Thoughts aren't facts, so don't take them seriously. But yeah, lots of, blank papers that I will collage on. Some scrapbook paper that I will collage on. some pockets. I really love the little pockets. Where's the... Just beautiful stuff. And she knew that she was creating an affirmation journal for me. So some of the stuff that she had that she picked was specifically affirmation oriented. Like these quotes. And this, oh God, isn't that pretty? Beautiful. I'd love to know what book that came out of or where she got that from. Just beautiful. So this is going to be a multi-year project probably that I'm going to work on. I have bought some stuff to get started, and some of the stuff I already had. So I found these little $5 books that have lots of little quotes in them, and I'm going to deconstruct these books and pull these quotes out to use for collaging in them. This one's great. I mean, this one's huge, and they didn't print on both sides, so I don't have to choose between quotes, you know, the quote on this side and the quote on this side. I can use every single one of these quotes if I choose to. I bought this book probably a couple of years ago. Good Morning, Good Night. These are Lin-Manuel Miranda's tweets. And some of them are so fabulous, and I'm going to tear this book up too. Good morning, he said. Be at home in your head. Make sure joy is well fed. Don't let dread hog the bed. Good night now and rest. Today was a test. You passed it, you passed it. Now breathe till unstressed. I just love stuff like that. Good night, I'm tired. I bet you're tired. But we're awake and alive, and that's enough. Come on, come on. So yeah, I will go through this book and pull out some of the quotes in here. Maybe even some of the illustrations. Maybe I'll even color some of the illustrations. We'll have to see. Since I got a new version of the Illustrated Herbiary, the deluxe version with the better cards, I have the old version that I had before. I'm going to destroy this book as well and use it in this affirmation journal, as well as the little cards that came with this original book. This is a little collection of affirmation cards that, this is the collection that the quote from the front of the book that I put on the front of the book came from. And about half of the cards in here I think have really great quotes, and I'm going to use these as well. And I went through, let's see how many things I can knock down. I went through a few decks that I just don't use very much that were sort of affirmation type decks, and pulled out cards that I intend to use, including the Affirmators, The Universe Has Your Back, and the new version of The Universe Has Your Back. What is it called? Super Attractor, something like that. So I'll use some of these cards in there as well. And then I also have, you know, scrapbook paper, bits of scrapbook paper. This is some of the stuff that I sent that Dawn Michelle didn't use to create the book. And I'll be using it, you know, in the book as well. Love that. Lots of starry things. But I've also got a new pad on the way that'll come on Monday that's got some mermaid things and ocean things. So it'll be an amalgamation. And then I also have some things that I tore out of a book. Just all kinds of things. I've got all kinds of things that I'm planning to use in this junk journal. So that's what I've been up to for the past couple of months. I do anticipate that I'll start making videos again a little bit more regularly. We'll have to see. I'm moving into, so I've sort of naturally started moving into a depth season. I'm not going to call it a whole year. My need to acquire decks has just kind of suddenly lifted from me. So you won't see as many new decks on my channel. I'll probably consider decks much more carefully. Doesn't mean I'm not going to buy them. Doesn't mean I'm going to make any vow to myself that I'm not going to buy decks. But it's going to have to be an extraordinary deck for me to use it. So you'll probably start seeing me use decks that I've had in my collection for a while. And I may be moving on more of my decks. Who knows? I still think I have too many. I can't possibly use them all. So anyway, that's what's been up with me. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a fabulous day.